Welcome to the latest edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Ryder, and returning once more from CBSSports.com, Sam Quinn is here. Gentlemen, wonderful to see your smiling faces. It's been a second.
What's up, guys?
Yeah,
Hey,
we actually have some sort of basketball news to talk about. All right. It's been a couple weeks.
Some sort of basketball news. Yeah, later in the show, we're going to do Sam's lists of players who are so bad they're fun. It was a discussion that Sam had on Twitter, and then I jumped in and we started going back and forth. So yeah, we're going to get a show out of that. But yes, there is a little bit of news here. Jamal Murray, Bill, you and I had discussed this previously, especially during the Olympics. We were like, he's going into the Olympics. He still hasn't signed that contract. What's going on here? And everybody expected that he would, and he did, but there was some holdup. But recently he signed what he was most eligible for 4 years at $208 million. There was some thought, Bill, that he might try to gamble a little bit and roll the dice and see if he could make an all NBA team for the first time ever, which he's never done. He's also never been an all-star, as everybody knows, but instead he re-signs this deal. So I guess a relief, right? For the Nuggets, for him, for everybody involved.
I think it is. I mean, I think you're right. Like maybe if he had had a better summer or he thought there was a clearer path forward to those accolades, maybe there's a delay. This is the part, guys, of my job I hate the most is when something really obvious happens and I have to reach out to sources and ask them. So let me just read you like what my life is like sometimes because I hit a GM up with, I thought, a very innocuous, what do you think of the Jamal Murray deal, right? Just here's what I got. What else did you think was going to happen? Question mark. So thank you, dear GM. You kind. I actually like that guy. So I guess like if we can like take that, this was the outcome that was going to happen. It's the outcome that made sense, Sam. You're the cap expert if you want to take people through the ins and outs of sort of why, but certainly like from a broad perspective around the NBA, as my very kind GM friend pointed out, this was the expected outcome, and I think the outcome that made sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. This was pretty much the obvious move. If he had been healthy in the playoffs and the Olympics, he would have gone for the All-NBA attempt. But this was always the deal that made sense. And I think this was telegraphed as far back as July when the Nuggets let KCP go. They needed to duck the second apron this year because the hardest effects of the second apron, when you're talking about the frozen draft picks that you can't trade and the picks getting dropped to number 30, the basic explanation there is you get a 2-year window to go over the second apron out of 5 years. Denver couldn't be above the second apron this year because they knew they had the Murray deal coming, and later in September, they're probably going to have a new Aaron Gordon deal coming. That means the next 2 years after this, 25, 26, and 26, 27, they're going to be a second apron team because they'll have those two guys. They'll have Jokic on a supermax. They'll have Porter on his max. So they looked at this and they said, we know we're paying Murray. We know we're paying Gordon. We got to let KCP go to make the money work. So this has been telegraphed a while out. It makes sense. It's the right deal for both sides. It's a little bit scary from a health perspective from Denver's side, but ultimately the alternatives were just like, what are you going to do? You're going to let Jamal Murray go? You're going to play out the whole season and risk him being unhappy? Like, you have a chance to win the championship again. Of course, you got to keep him happy.
Yeah, this is the like sort of restricted options reality of the NBA that we've entered. I mean, there's going to be a lot fewer choices for a lot more teams. What is your? I guess Sam just answered it. I was going to ask you guys, like, maybe I'm a captive of the moment because that happens, and just because Denver lost in the playoffs last season doesn't mean that they're not going to go and be great this year or next year. We've seen the Spurs and other teams win championships, but not necessarily win a bunch of back-to-backers. But man, like second apron, I mean, their best player is pretty good. But after that, like Jamal Murray, not an all-NBA player, not an all-star ever. And, like I don't see a path for that. And Aaron Gordon, I mean, it's MPJ is such a question mark. And John, you and I have talked about maybe there's a world where they can get something for him and create some flexibility. But my confidence level in Denver, guys, even though they had to do this, is so much lower than it was a year ago. And I can't decide if I'm seeing the light or I'm just being a captive of, all right, they had a rough postseason by their standards, but that's the West and they'll be fine a year from now or 2 years from now.
I think, we discussed this when we did our over-unders. I think there's pretty clearly a top 3 in the Western Conference, and Sam just said, they have a chance to win the title again. I think they're one of those 3. I think it's OKC and Minnesota and Denver that are the best teams in the Western Conference. Now, that said, as we just mentioned, I mean, your mileage is probably going to vary on Jamal Murray, right? Because he is a very good player, and I do like him in the 2-man game with Joker, but no all-star, no all-NBA. He's the second best player on that team, but like and we're going to have our CBS Sports, and I can't wait to see your guys' list.
Oh my God. I hate this assignment, by the way. It's so hard
for me. We're going to do that next week. And it was a really fun experience, but Jamal Murray, I can't wait to see where everybody slots him, right? Because you're going to get kind of far down the list before you end up on Jamal Murray. And, is that enough with Denver moving forward and all these cap restrictions, Sam, that they have? Like, look, they won a title with Jamal Murray and Joker, but Jamal Murray is coming off a dreadful Olympics, absolutely horrible. And then the postseason, with the exception of a couple shots against the Lakers, he wasn't good there either.
Yeah, what's kind of getting me here? We're talking about losing KCP, but if you look at the team that won the title, it was really a six-man core, and they haven't just lost one of those guys. They've lost two. Bruce Brown is gone as well. They're down to four of the core guys from the championship team, and they didn't use either of those guys to set themselves up in any meaningful way. They lost both of them outright through free agency. I sort of hoped maybe if you're going to lose KCP, could you sign and trade him and get a contract back, like something you could use in a trade? They still do have their 2031 first-round pick to trade with, but they have no money to attach it to, right? Like, nobody wants the Zeke Naji contract. Dario Saric makes taxpayer mid-level money. I'd love it if they could, combine all of these smaller salaries and trade for another shooter because they barely have any shooting, or a high-end defender who's a competent shooter. It feels to me like they're a guy short. They clearly weren't comfortable playing Peyton Watson in the playoffs last year. They're going to have to, just because they don't have the guys not to anymore. I hope they can find a way either to turn one of their deep bench guys into a real rotation player or add somebody in the middle of the season. Because right now, this is classic talent drain from a championship team. They had six really good guys, and now
I was waiting for the
why do you hate
Russell Westbrook joke. I was going to make the same joke. Is Sam? If you look at the math, is Russell Westbrook an addition, or is he simply subtraction by addition? What is the math? What's the math tell us?
I think what's going to happen.
In my head.
I think what's going to happen is there are going to be 6 to 8 games relatively early in the year where Jamal Murray is going to be out. It might be a back-to-back. Or, for whatever reason, they're really going to need a bunch of shot creation. And Russ is going to play 29 minutes, and he's going to score 23 points and have 8 assists. And people on Twitter are going to go wow,
28 shots.
I can't believe you underrated him for so long. You guys are so awful. You're just trying to bury Russ. And then almost every other game, you're going to look at the numbers. It's he's shooting 39%. He's averaging 3.5 turnovers in 20 minutes.
So this is a problem, though, right? Because it's a math problem. It was a math problem for them last year, where they were, I believe, the lowest volume 3-point shooting team in the NBA last year, and the Lakers were right behind them. How do they solve for that, right? Because KCP leaves, he was at least a reliable 3-point shooter. And as you mentioned, they don't bring in anybody this offseason where you go, okay, well, they're putting some more shooting around Joker. And last time I checked, 3 is worth more than 2. Who's shooting the threes?
This has to be Julian Strawther. In Summer League, Julian Strawther was great.
Yeah,
and in college, Julian Strawther was great. The rookie year, and he got hurt, and he missed a lot of time. We didn't really get a good read on who he's going to be. They are really relying on Julian Strawther to be a high volume shooter, not just high percentage. They need him to take a lot because Christian Brown doesn't get guarded. Peyton Watson doesn't get guarded. They need somebody who's just going to be a bench, not even a sniper. They need somebody to come be a machine gun.
How many 3-point shots do you want Michael Porter Jr. taking a game? I mean, do we feel reliably that, because there was a time, John, I can't remember if we had the podcast yet, where it was a reasonable thing to think, and I was one of these people, that maybe Michael Porter Jr. could elevate to a level where he was, in terms of impact, another star, right? Maybe the third star, but a difference maker once or twice a game in a playoff series, over the course of a 10-game stretch, maybe 2 or 3 games in the regular season. And he's not even reliable on any level for me anymore. I mean, isn't that part of the answer? If MPJ could just perform at the level they thought he would when they paid him, that solves a lot of problems.
It would be helpful if MPJ was better. Yes. But
he was good.
Yeah, that would be helpful. But you and I had talked about this multiple times where we're like, all right, well, if you're going to unplug somebody, probably is going to be MPJ, right? Because at least for the way that they play and the way that Joker likes to play when he gets in that paint, forces that decision with Aaron Gordon in a dunker spot. Are you going to come out on me or are you going to stay home on Aaron Gordon? like, I think Aaron Gordon is and also defensively, I think Aaron Gordon is a more valuable player to the Nuggets than MPJ has been, at least recently. Now, who knows? Maybe he has.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah. Maybe he snaps out of it and like really steps forward. But they're thin. They were thin last year. They're thin again this year. I say all this. We just saw what Joker did with Serbia and almost beating the best 12-man team at the Olympics, almost single-handedly. So, like, they've got the best player on the planet. They're going to be a very good team. We are nitpicking here, but there are nits to pick.
And I throw out my question with Michael Porter is, I would be fine with the shooting issues, the defense, the rebounding, whatever. I thought he was going to be a much better creator than he ultimately turned out to be. And I think to some extent that was a function of the role Denver always asked him to play. I think if he gets drafted by a normal team, he gets a lot more on-ball reps early in his career. But one of the major problems for Denver is that Murray and Jokic are the only guys who create any offense. If he had come into the league and become like a traditional max level offensive player instead of this guy who spent so much time just spacing out from deep, I'd feel a lot better about them. But now, like, when Murray misses games, it's like, well, Jokic can be the best player in the world and give us a 30-point triple-double, or we're just going to score 96 points.
Yeah, so producer Aaron answered, how many threes do you want MPJ taken? So he took just under 7 threes last season and in the postseason, which is down from the previous year where he's just over 7. 7.5, 8, right? I mean, that's
I was saying more, a little
you're going to need more.
Yeah.
But that's kind of not how they play.
It's not.
At some point you'd have to adjust. I thought that they would adjust a little bit in the postseason where, okay, you're going to have more volume in the postseason, but they didn't. They just kind of kept doing their thing. And I guess I understand it because doing their thing won them the championship the previous season. So, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But now maybe it is a little broke. I don't know. We'll find out. But Jamal Murray re-signed. What else would you expect, Bill Ryder? Said the GM that you texted.
That is the worst part. John, you've done it. Sam, you too. You got to ask the questions you got to ask. But it's just
asking questions you have to ask is sometimes the worst.
And this is just a text. Sometimes, like on the phone, even guys that like me will just be like, that's so dumb. Like, all right, it's dumb. Can you just answer the question so I can go on CBS Sports HQ and say please? Anyway, I love sources. They're the greatest on earth.
Thank you to that source. We're going to take a quick break, and then on the other side, this is going to be a fun experiment, a fun little exercise that we made Sam put together for us. But it's Sam's list of players, team of players, really. He assembled a team of players who are so bad they're actually fun. We're going to do that on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. John, Bill, and Sam here. Just a reminder that you can get us wherever you find your favorite podcast. Please download, subscribe, and leave a review. And this is new. If you're listening on Spotify, you can leave us a comment on this episode. Just look below the play button on the Spotify app in full screen mode, and you can tell us what you think of the show or of us. I'm sure that's going to go great. And leave us a question. We might read it on the program. All right. So a week ago, who can remember? It's the off season. Sam was on Twitter doing his Sam stuff. He's a great follow, by the way. You can find him at.
He loves Tom Brady too on Twitter. Yeah. He's a big Tom Brady guy.
Tom Brady guy made a lot of money on Monday Night Football last night. He's a wonderkin. Anyway, so he was talking about players who are so bad they're good, and I jumped in with how much I love watching Jordan Poole because he's like first team Shaqtin' a Fool. So we decided, Sam, why don't you put us together a team of players so bad they're good? Take it away, Sam.
Yeah. So the premise here was, I think it was right when the schedule came out. We saw that the Lakers had the most national televised games. It was like 45 or whatever it is every year. And the Wizards had the fewest. It was 1 or 2. I'm just going to say this. I've watched almost every Lakers game last year, and the Wizards would have been somewhere in the top 10 of teams that I watched because they were so bad they were fun. And this kind of, spawned off our list here. The key premise of things that we're looking for in these players. there are bad teams that are bad to watch. You don't want to watch the Pistons because those are a lot of guys who are like actively trying to develop and their skill sets clash and it's just ugly. The Wizards were so fun because they had a lot of guys who were just like, we know what we are and we're just going to mess around. So I have two teams here. One of them, the first one, I think traditionally what we're looking for out of guys who are like, they're on bad teams and they're doing ridiculous stuff and they're meant not to be taken seriously. And then the second team is full of guys who are like actually like good NBA players. But for one reason or another, I think we'd all just prefer it if they stayed on bad teams. So I'll start with our MVP.
Yeah, let's just go through the first one first. The players so bad they're fun.
So I'll start with our MVP. John, he's your guy. Jordan Poole, who I'm gonna give you a list of things that he did or tried to do in an NBA game last year. There was a moment where he clearly considered shooting from a seated position.
Yes,
I don't know if anybody remembers this.
That was my favorite one.
It was on a loose ball, and he ends up on the ground on his butt. And he looks up at the rim, and everyone in the building knows, no. And he thankfully doesn't take the shot, but I kind of wish he'd taken the shot. He threw an alley-oop off of the backboard when the Wizards were down 21. There was a moment, I can't remember who they were playing against. He shook a big man off of him, like right on the baseline. The big flew out of bounds, but he had lost his dribble, so he was like, am I going to lay it up? Am I going to try a floater? What am I going to do? It took him so long to make his decision that by the time he went up for the shot, the defender had flown back into frame and blocked it. It's just the lowlights from Jordan Poole last year. I don't know that I've ever had more fun watching a player on a court.
They were tremendous, and like I really love watching him. But it's kind of shocking to me a little bit, like what's happened here, Bill, with Jordan Poole. Like the pre-punch Golden State Warriors are going to give him a new contract, and like there's a high ceiling here, and he looks like he's going to be part of that organization for a while. To post-punch, they got to get his contract off the books. Now he's just in Washington, like completely freestyle, like doing weird basketball karaoke, basically.
I mean, all right, so everything you said, Sam, is hilarious, is funny. I can't watch Jordan Poole and not be sad. I mean, I'm sure you all know the guy from high school, right? Like had it. Oh, I can't. It just makes me, because it is like there's pre-punch and there's post-punch Jordan Poole, and all that swagger, and maybe it wasn't justified, but all that swagger and self-belief is just, it's gone. The man is a shell of himself when he looks in the mirror. I'm glad you guys are amused by Jordan Poole. It is very funny, but he reminds me of the guy in high school who just, you see at the reunion 10 years later, and he is sad, and he doesn't have a job, and he clearly doesn't shower.
Jordan Poole is sad? Is he self-aware enough to be? Is he self-aware enough to be like, this hasn't gone well? I don't know if he is.
I think he knows he sucks. Don't you? I think and he's just like, bleep it. I'm gonna maybe I'll just shoot something down. My life is awful. My basketball career is over. I don't care.
I really wish he had.
I do too.
What drives me the craziest about the Jordan Poole thing is like Draymond was clearly in the wrong, right? Like Draymond punching him, like this was Draymond's fault. And Draymond kind of won, right? He got Jordan Poole off the team. I'm not going to sit here and say he ruined Jordan Poole's career, but like,
I think he did.
The bad guy kind of won here. And if you go back to when Jordan Poole was good, and like, make no mistake, he was a very good player those not the last 4 years here, but the two before that, the championship year, and then the last Clay was out year. Like, he was a very good player, and a lot of the DNA that made him so good with the Warriors is still present with the Wizards. It's just sort of been distorted when you're going from a dynasty to the worst team in the NBA. Jordan Poole, like the way I describe it is he really likes to explore the studio space. He tries things that no other player will try. He'll throw ridiculous passes that three times out of 5 are turnovers, but the other 2 are like, oh my God, I can't believe he did that, which is very much in the Warriors' DNA. He'll pull up and he'll shoot from the logo, which is obviously another very Warriors thing to do. When you do that for the Warriors and it works, it's like, wow, we found our next Steph. We found our next superstar. When you do that for the Wizards and it doesn't, you're just like, oh my God, like who's telling him he can do this?
Also, and to your point, yeah, I mean, Jordan Poole had some really nice moments pre-punch, had a really good postseason run in that series where they beat Boston. Like, let's not get it twisted. He was a good player, and more importantly, he was just a really effective and important piece for them when they won a championship. But so Jordan Poole praise, well deserved. Everything's easier when you play with Steph. I mean, you still have to do it, and you still have to execute. But everything is the gravity that Steph commands, the confidence that he infuses, just like every aspect of your life is going to be easier. And so I think, Sam, if you won't go that far, I will. I do think Draymond Green ruined his career. I mean, when quarterbacks get drafted in the NFL, where they go matters, and it's not the same sort of thing in the NBA, but to a degree, who coaches you, where you go, what your fit is. He was a warrior with Stephen Curry. Now he's a freaking wizard. I do think if his career doesn't get turned around, and I don't think there will be a renaissance, but I hope I'm wrong, I think Draymond did ruin his career.
Draymond certainly didn't help, and you are right. Where you are working absolutely matters. Turns out Wizards, not the Warriors. All right, so Jordan Poole is the captain of the Players So Bad They're Fun team here. Who else is on this team?
Yeah, we're sticking in the backcourt, and if Jordan Poole is our MVP, then Johnny Davis is our Rookie of the Year. Did you ever have those when you were playing in Little League? Like, say you're in a division where it's 11 and 12-year-olds, but there's one 9-year-old on the team because his brother is on the team and his parents are just not having two separate schedules. That's a little bit how I feel when I watch Johnny Davis, where I'm like, maybe someday he'll be good, but today it's just uncomfortable how bad he is. Like, missing wide open layups, like struggles to handle the ball. I feel like usually when you are a player at the level that Johnny Davis is at now, you just don't play in the NBA, right? Like, he's not an NBA caliber player. It's just a perfect combination of him being a high draft pick on a team that desperately needs to fill minutes and on a team that desperately wants to lose, that it's this perfect storm of a player that we otherwise never would see get real minutes in the NBA actually playing. And that's how we're seeing these things where it's like, he was just wide open under the basket. How did he miss that?
This Johnny Davis he could have been an early process Sixer. They had a whole team full of those guys. It was
John's an expert. Look, he was a little bit better this past year. Like, didn't his 3-point shooting go up like a little, like market? These guys all suck. I mean, every guy you're going to bring up is bad. At least this dude is young, right? And there is the idea. There is even if it's not going to. We can pretend there's some optimism that he's going to figure it out. Because some guys take a while, and he is getting minutes.
Who's next there, Sam?
All right, we're a little less notable guys here. I'm just going to miss him, Yuta Watanabe, who, if you could give a trophy for effort, like, I really would love to give him a participation trophy. Dude plays every possession like he's chasing the love of his life through an airport. I once wrote a 3,000-word restricted free agency preview, and the only clip I included was Yuta Watanabe playing defense. He had that one stretch in Brooklyn where he was like making 45% of his threes for a month or two, and everyone's like, yes, he's figured it out. And then it just went away, and he had the year in Phoenix where he barely played, and now he's not in the NBA anymore. I will miss him dearly. I just wanted this last opportunity to shout him out as one of my favorite, let's say, bad players to watch.
Yeah, Godspeed to Yuta. And you also have Pokashevsky and Ben. Yeah. I want to spend some time on Ben Simmons.
We'll get to
Eulogize Pokashevsky here. How did he make this team?
He's just the classic guy you pick on the 5% chance that he's great, but we got the 95% outcome that he's not. Where he never had an NBA body, but like he clearly had the outline of skills that were going to translate. Where there's a 5% chance he's Porzingis and a 95% chance he's not NBA caliber. He's another guy who's leaving the NBA like Yuta is. And I just want to go back to my favorite Poku moment of all time. It was the last day of the 2021 season, and both the Thunder and the Clippers desperately wanted to lose. The Thunder for draft position, the Clippers because they were tanking away from the Lakers. They just had to control their seed. So Poku went for 29 and 8 in the last game of the season as the focal point of the Thunder offense. But the Clippers won by losing because Daniel Oturu went 5 for 21 and the Clippers let him post up for like 8 straight minutes. That's the kind of bad basketball I enjoy, where you can clearly see the motive and the bad intentions there. So I'm going to miss you, Poku. You were part of some very, very fun bad basketball moments.
I had high hopes for him for a minute, and then that minute quickly passed. Bill, the last guy here on Sam's list is Ben Simmons, who this is the
Hall of Famer on this list.
Well, he's
a bad guy player, Hall of Fame. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like, having watched a lot of Ben Simmons basketball over the years, the premise of this team is so bad they're fun, and Ben Simmons, I'm not sure fit into that.
He makes you sad because there's a memory for you.
Oh, and
Yeah.
also like it didn't work out, and he can do a lot of things on a basketball court. Shooting obviously is not one of them, and he has absolutely regressed over the course of his career. It's been a downward trajectory, and I don't know what his next contract is going to look like if he gets one. I'm sure that there will be one out there for him, but for how many years? And like, does he even want to play basketball? Like, the only fun component for Ben Simmons is in the summer when he posts his Instagram videos going, you know who's going to shoot this year?
Oh yeah,
This guy.
Now, I'll amend this slightly. I think with Ben Simmons, it's more so bad he's fascinating. It's less fun than it is interesting. I went back and I watched a lot of his assist tape from last year, and what I noticed was like, it's not even just that he doesn't want to get fouled. He doesn't want to go inside of the arc. Like, so many of his passes, so many of his assists were like, I am stopping on a dime at the three-point line and looking so intently for a cutter because I just don't want to risk contact at all. I listed him on this team as a center. He's obviously been a quote-unquote point guard his entire career. He can't play with a center anymore if he's going to play this way. Him and Nick Claxton, when they shared the court last year, had a 96 offensive rating. Like, that is so abominable. Like, you can't do that. He has to play with four other shooters. And on most roster constructions, the only way he's going to do that is as a center. So I kind of put him here as like, it's almost aspirational. I want him someday to like sign a minimum contract on a team with a bunch of shooting that can just let him be that guy. I don't think we'll ever get there, but I've never seen a player like the player he was last year. I've never seen a player who was so intentional about where he was and wasn't willing to go on the court. So he was more fun. It was more interesting than fun.
No, it's fun in a sicko way. Like, have you ever gone to dinner? It's happened to me a while ago with Lori this summer, where a couple was in a huge, horrible fight at the table next to us, and it was uncomfortable and inappropriate and just marvelous. And we just signaled to the waiter, like, keep the drinks coming. And we just sat for 40 minutes and watched this slow motion divorce. That's what watching Ben Simmons is. I know I shouldn't enjoy it. I know I'm watching human suffering. I know I'm watching. I don't think he likes basketball, John. We've talked about it. I think he hates the world. He hates basketball. Maybe he hates himself when he's playing. It is so riveting. It is it's riveting.
How many games do we think he plays this year?
11.
I was going to say 17.
And think about it also is Ben Simmons was not the most likable guy before all of this happened. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say he was absolutely unlikable, but I mean, I thought the trade saga did not paint him in the best light. Obviously, the stuff that happened at the end in Philly, the pass to Tybulle, like, he was not somebody that I actively feel bad for because I'm not going to say I wasn't a fan. I enjoyed watching him play, but he wasn't a character that really invited sympathy in the way that others. If Stephen Curry forgot,
he was unlikable at LSU. I was around this guy at LSU a little bit. Like, I was doing like a little college back then, and his teammates didn't like him. Remember, like, the book on him was teammates didn't like him, and he didn't care about winning. And he isn't likable. I don't think he's ever been likable.
I don't know if there's been extensive report. I don't know exactly where it lands, but it seems like him and Jimmy Butler didn't get along. Now, Jimmy Butler is a very acquired taste, but I do feel like Jimmy Butler is a good litmus test of, like, if he doesn't like this guy, are we sure that he's about winning? Like, Jimmy Butler, for all of his flaws, is about winning. So,
yeah, fair.
Yeah, like, I'm not sitting here and feeling the same sympathy for Ben Simmons that I might feel for other players.
I don't know if you remember that 2019 Sixers team. You know, they end up losing to the Raptors, who go on to win the championship. And afterwards, Zach Lowe was talking because they had basically, like, that was really like the watershed moment where they realized, oh yeah, he needs the ball in his hands, but we can't give it to him in the playoffs. So it's got to be Jimmy. So they put him in the dunker spot along the baseline. And afterwards, Zach Lowe interviewed him, and he's like, I'm more than that. I'm more than the guy that you just like hide in the dunker spot. And I remember thinking at the time, I don't know if you are. And now for sure you aren't. And it's just like, it's crazy how he went from all this promise to, man, is he even going to be in the league, and what's that going to look like?
Another guy, Sam, you put on your list who's just emotionally shattered as a basketball player.
This is really the team of broken dreams that you've assembled here, Sam.
You know, I go back to that dunker spot quote, and I think, like, not only are you not more than that, we saw emphatically in Game 7 of the Hawks series that you're not even that, right?
Yeah,
because you were in the dunker spot, you had the ball, and you passed out of the layup. So I think that was the moment where we all just kind of knew, I don't know what Ben Simmons is ultimately going to be, but it's not going to be what we thought he was, and it's not going to be this max contract player.
It's not going to be what he thought either. All right, we're going to take another quick break, and then we've got another variation on this theme. It's players so bad they're good, but it's really they're good players, but they're more fun on bad teams. So Sam's going to walk us through that on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc.
Today, with the support of the NFL, a new playbook is being written. The National Gay Flag Football League provides inclusive play for over 4,000 LGBTQ plus players and allies. Here is a home with no penalty for being you.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. You can also find us on YouTube. Our page is at Beyond the Arc CBS. Please hit the like button, leave us a comment, and also subscribe. All right, Sam, so part 2 of this, real players, ostensibly good, but they're more fun on bad teams. Walk us through these guys.
Yeah, so we'll start with, I think, probably the NBA's preeminent carnival act, which is LaMelo Ball. I love watching LaMelo Ball shoot from the logo. I love watching LaMelo Ball throw wild passes across the court. I love watching LaMelo Ball play low-stakes basketball. We've never seen him in a playoff series. I don't want to get us to the point where I'm watching like, oh no, he can't like figure out the defense in the short roll area, or like, oh no, they're picking on him defensively. That's not what I'm here for when I'm watching LaMelo Ball. Like, I'm here for empty calories. And I know every year we get the reporting out of Charlotte, like, this is the year that we start getting him to do normal point guard stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe I'll believe it when I see it. I just want to see him do the fun stuff.
I'm not a huge LaMelo guy. Where are you on LaMelo?
I love watching LaMelo play. I'm opposite Sam. I would love to see him on a good team to see if he can stay healthy. If it translates, I want to know. But since he plays where he plays, we're never going to know. And so Sam is going to get his wish to the end of times. But I love watching. He is a league pass must for me. I love watching him play. I think he's obviously dynamic. I would like to see him on a really good team. I'd like to see if it works.
Bill, you're basically another Ball son, right? I mean, because you're tight
close.
With LeVar. You did the interview with LeVar.
They almost became my neighbors. Have we talked about this? How they almost moved. Oh, we even had this. So there's I live in LA. There's a crazy mansion next to me that rents for an obnoxious amount of money. So I don't have air conditioning in my house, but it's never hot because I'm not kidding. This house is so big it shades my entire house. I live in a hovel. And this house, they almost rented to LeVar, and so I know him. So it would have been weird. So yeah, LeVar's my guy. We had a great interview. I don't know if you know this, guys. Everything's fine. LaMelo's going to be great. Lonzo's going to be healthy.
Lonzo's on his way back.
They're going to play 82 games plus the playoffs. Everything's perfect.
When you talk about empty calories with him, like that's pretty much all you get. And like I'm not certain. Like moving forward, that he's the best basketball player on that team, because I think Brandon Miller actually is a good and smart basketball player who does all the stuff that they wanted LaMelo to do, but never has done. And like moving forward, what is their tolerance for that, right? Where they go, all right, well, like we're trying to actually build a team and do something in Charlotte for once in history. And like, is LaMelo going to be an impediment to that? I don't know. Another guy on your list here, Sam, who's super empty calories, plays in Brooklyn.
Cam Thomas is the NBA's preeminent ball hog right now. I've got some stats for you. Cam Thomas took the 28th most field goals in the NBA last season. Do you want to guess where he ranked in total passes?
I want to hear it.
140th.
Wow.
He averaged fewer passes than minutes last year. Do you know how hard that is when you're the primary ball handler for an offense? We get this, I don't even want to say every year because we're early enough in his career, but like we're starting to get the trickle of like, oh, Cam Thomas was a better passer at the end of last year. Like he's going to start playing more traditional pick and roll. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's going to just take a million shots. Like that's what he's going to do. And on a good team, I'm not a big fan of the ball hog types. Like when Jordan Clarkson was on the Cavs and it's like, hey, LeBron's right there, right? Like, of course that's going to bug me. The Nets are so bad that I'm just kind of morbidly curious. Can he average 30 points a game? Like, can he take so many shots that he leads the league in scoring? Maybe?
This was gonna be my question for you guys. Is he gonna lead the league in scoring? It's gonna be a bad team.
I'd recommend
He's gonna have all the shots he wants.
I mean, he'll be in the mix, won't he? And that's an amazing stat And a very sad and pathetic one, Sam, that you just gave us, that he averages fewer passes per minute. Is that right? How is that even
on it? NBA
functionally possible?
There are a few other guys, like Jordan Clarkson was like that too, but I think the distinction is Jordan Clarkson was mostly a bench player who like comes in specifically to score. Cam Thomas was like maybe the best offensive player on the Nets. Like, you have a certain responsibility when you have the ball that much, right?
I believe you. It's just an astoundingly obnoxious fact that you just threw out there.
And also, I mean, in a year where they're going to be tanking for Cooper Flag and they control their draft again because of what they did in the offseason, like, I think they just wish him Godspeed. Like, crank up as many shots as you want, play solo hero ball all season long.
Explore the studio space, Cam.
Don't share the ball at all, Cam.
And he won't. Who else is on this team, Sam?
We're going to get some defense on here, surprisingly enough. Mathisse Tybulle. Now, Mathisse Tybulle is a great defender, but he's a very untraditional defender. And there's that famous meme of Spider-Man fighting a dinosaur where Spider-Man goes to the dinosaur like, hey, you know, with your technology, you could cure cancer. And the dinosaur goes back to him, I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs. That's how I feel watching Mathisse Tybulle play defense. I don't want to watch him play traditional defense and just lock a guy down. I want to watch him block guys from behind. I want to watch him gamble for wild steals. And I never want to think about what he does offensively. I never want to think, oh, man, they're not guarding him. He can't be in a playoff rotation. I don't want to think about what we saw in Philly. Just do fun stuff for the 20 minutes you're in the game. That's all I ask. Just do crazy defense and don't make me think too hard about how productive it actually is.
Turn these damn people into dinosaurs.
Can we just stop for a second? I got to be honest. He kind of threw us for a loop on Spider-Man and dinosaurs that cure cancer. I'm unfamiliar with this.
I'm going to send you guys this meme later. It is a perfect explanation of Tybulle's defense.
Somewhere in there is Mathisse Tybulle.
I didn't hear a thing you said after dinosaurs and cancer.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, we're completely off the rails now. Who round out this team?
All right. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. I'm just going to say Mamu on the Spurs.
Yeah, just call him Mamu because nobody can pronounce his name.
Junkie pick. I don't want to think about him defending in a high-level playoff series. He's a confident shooter, but like by the numbers, not a very good one. But he runs the floor like Obi Toppin, and he's an awesome passer. And when he played with Wemby last year, it was just cool stuff was happening all of the time. Guys were getting passes in places that you shouldn't think that they would. You were seeing guys who were 6'10" running the floor and getting great looks in transition. Just like my favorite, he's the 10th man on one of the worst teams in the NBA. But whenever he's on the floor, I'm absolutely riveted. So love me some Mamu. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name.
I mean, he needs to play well because with great power comes great responsibility.
Oh, nice. Nicely done by you. It's
That's a great
Mamu
segue, though.
Skalishvili, right?
Yep.
Mamu Skalishvili.
Mamu
nice.
Skivishvili. I can't do it.
I can't do it.
Well, none of us will ever be able to do it. The last one here, this is the one that I wanted to take umbrage with, but give me the case on why he's a good player on a bad team.
Well, Bill, you kind of segued perfectly with great power and great responsibility because DeAndre Jordan has great power, but he does not really take great responsibility for it.
DeAndre Ayton,
excuse me. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was on a great team, obviously. Like, he made the finals in Phoenix, and he did that doing a lot of the dirty work, right? Like being a complete center. And then he fights for the max contract. He gets it. He famously says something along the lines of like, I'm a max player. I have nothing left to prove. But he goes to Portland and like, just fully Ayton's out. Last year, he took 213 mid-range jumpers and 79 free throws. He's a center. How do you do that?
How is that possible?
That's amazing. Like, ranked 25th in mid-range attempts and 217th in free throws. I don't know how you do that. This guy wants to be a guard, but he's 7 feet, so I guess he gets to be a center. And that's not a formula for actually winning anything at that position. But he's going to put up his numbers. He's going to get paid. So my whole process with him is just like, you know what? Like, you do you, DeAndre. Like, be on bad teams, put up your numbers, never go to the line. I'll enjoy it fine, but I don't want to think about you on a good team.
Bill,
he's awful.
We've talked about him. I'm out on Ayton. I don't think he's good.
He's awful. If you had to rank players that have squandered talent or I wouldn't want anywhere near like my successful basketball team, this guy would be in the top 5 of that list. I mean, it doesn't come to work when there's snow or whatever. I mean,
yeah, if it's icy,
hear
you can't make it.
I think I think he's broken too, just in a different way. Maybe it's complacency, and I think
he still has a function. I don't think he's anything close to a max player. But like he put up big numbers down the stretch last year. I think in a perfect world on a good team, even if he's never going to play the way he did in Phoenix, because the guy he was in Phoenix, like that really was close to a max player at his peak during the finals year. Even if he's never going to go back to playing that way, I'd like to have that guy on my team as like a spot starter, a 20-minute a game backup who can get me some points, who can like help carry bench units.
But he's a max player.
Yes.
Oh, I agree. He's not actually a max caliber player. I'm just saying he does have a function on a winning team.
I was going to say you hit exactly
his salary and his attitude. Yeah. I mean,
you hit exactly what he is. We were talking about this when we did our over-unders in our Western Conference. We landed on Portland, one of the few teams in the Western Conference isn't going to be challenging for anything. I'd want to get him anywhere else, but to get him anywhere else, if you're a winning team that's looking to compete for a championship, DeAndre Ayton isn't going to play 35 minutes on your team, 20-something minutes as the backup big and a spot starter. That's like what he is now, which is pretty far from what he used to be.
That's Andre Drummond, right? That's Andre Drummond who was on a max contract and tried his hand at playing for a winning team when he went to the Lakers and it went badly. And then he just redid himself as an awesome backup center. Maybe
and a good teammate, though, Sam. And a good teammate and a good locker room guy. DeAndre Ayton couldn't be a good teammate and a good locker room guy when he was getting minutes and when he had a really important role.
That's going to be the major distinction here, obviously. I don't know what kind of backup Ayton is going to be. And, like, there is a certain variety of player who is so good that when he is a max caliber player, you put up with his stuff. But the moment he's not, like
old DeMarcus Cousins.
There's a world where Ayton like finishes his max contract and he signs one low-end, mid-level minimum deal. It doesn't go well, and like suddenly teams aren't interested in him anymore. Like I totally get that, but I do think at a bare minimum, just considering his talent, he should be able to function on an NBA team, just not in the role or at the money that he is now.
I wonder how many opportunities, Bill, would even be out there. Like, let's just say Portland wakes up tomorrow and goes, okay, fine. We got to get Klingon in here and we can probably ship out Robert Williams. But like the major goal here is to find a new home for DeAndre Ayton.
He gets a shot.
Like, Memphis might have made sense, but now that you have Edie,
Memphis would have made sense.
New Orleans, maybe. I'm trying to think of some teams.
Could you do something where you're just like it's a bad contract for a bad contract? Like, could you trade Ayton for Jordan Poole? I don't know if that helps.
DeAndre Ayton and Jonas.
Like my problem for your problem, essentially. No, I'm with you, and I don't think there is a trade fit. Like, I think I saw something. Might have been Zach Lowe mentioned him like for the Knicks, and it's just like at that salary, at that price point, no, it's just you can't do it. No winning team is going to pay him to be the player he is in Portland. I think
he's going to get along with Tibbs. Hell no.
No, of course not. If you had some reason to believe that he was going to be the guy he was in Phoenix, like if he came out this year and just like played the best defense he possibly could and like was willing to mix it up inside, get to the foul line a little bit, maybe then you could get teams interested again. But I don't see a team in the NBA right now that needs a center badly enough to pay him the max.
That's the thing too, though. You're talking about him playing the best defense he possibly can. He's not enough of a rim protector that he's a problem in the paint. So what you're looking at is an old school, double rebound machine. Okay, great. Like that those aren't at a premium. Like how many?
I'll say this though.
Really like, man, we need that,
especially
guy.
at that price. At that price too.
Yes,
How many people have defended Jokic better in a playoff series? It's not a long list.
Yeah,
I'm just putting that out.
That's
there.
Everybody's problem, but fair.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say I think.
Are you really confident that if you brought in DeAndre Ayton, you just magically make the numbers work that he's gonna shut down Jokic? Because I'm not. I mean, I think his past. I'm with you on the past version. I liked him in Phoenix. Like I thought there was some upside, and I was sort of, there were some complicating factors with his falling out with those guys, and I mean that was and probably still is a dysfunctional organization. I liked Ayton. I just think he is He's so spoiled on so many levels as a player. I don't think he cares. I'm with you in the past, Sam. I just think today, kind of like Simmons, but for different reasons, he's just not he doesn't have the same aspirations that I think he had 4 or 5 years ago.
No, I agree, but the difference is Ben Simmons, like literally, you might not be able to put him on a court. Whereas
Right.
with Ayton, there is
different reasons.
Yes,
I hear you.
But with Ayton, at the
diminished.
absolute lowest level, you can put him on the court for 12 minutes and like get replacement level center or obviously something better.
But not right. But that's
not
not
at
what
the current
with a
price.
max.
Absolutely.
And that it makes sense 3 years ago. But now that like obviously with how the CBA works and how restrictive it is, you can't misspend on DeAndre Ayton if you want to contend.
He's
Spending
going
on
the Drummond route where it's going to go from the max to taxpayer level or minimum or something like that.
That'll be an interesting phase of his career. Like, maybe
if
there's a little
that's the
humility
case
in
and
that
he ends up as Andre Drummond, I look forward to the Chicago Bulls not trading him for draft picks and just letting him walk. That'll be great. I also look forward to find out, as I mentioned, this is called a tease in the business, where you guys, when we have our top 100 that we're going to walk through next week, where you have DeAndre Ayton, because a little spoiler here,
I don't think he's
barely made my list.
I don't think he's
on mine.
I think he was 101
okay.
or 102.
I'd have to check. I don't know if he made mine.
Barely made my list. So
he did not make mine. I'm looking
that's
right
a little
now.
tease for next week. But this was very fun. That's going to do it for us today. I'm glad, Sam, more of these shows that we're going to develop off of your Twitter conversations with me on a random Tuesday. It's going to be great.
And next time we need the meme on the show. Next time you're on, we're going to throw up the dinosaur cancer.
I'll have pictures ready. I'll send you guys that picture right now.
I'm ready.
I have to close the show, but it's very hard when I'm thinking about dinosaurs and cancer and Spider-Man. But this was tremendous fun. But for now, for our NBA insider, Bill Ryder, for Sam Quinn, you can read both of their stuff on cbssports.com. I am John Gonzalez. We will be back on Thursday with one Ashley Nicole Moss making her triumphant return to the show to discuss some borderline Hall of Famers. We'll do thumbs up, thumbs down for that one. But for right now, thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time.